I want to talk about the spectacular career failure of Liz Cheney. Now, you might think I'm going to talk about Liz Cheney running for re-election in Wyoming, in a district, by the way, that she dominated, and she was the big name in Wyoming. And there was even talk about her being, having Kevin McCarthy's job down the road, that she was potentially presidential material. And then she starts losing her own base. Republicans around the country begin to be suspicious of her, even appalled by her. Her own constituents basically sent her packing, picking a relative nobody, Harriet Hageman, by a decisive margin. So this is all a repudiation of Liz Cheney. But Liz Cheney says, I don't care. I don't care because I have a larger mission. Now, in one sense, her larger mission is I'm trying to prevent Trump from running again. I don't think she's going to succeed in that one. But her larger mission can be stated slightly differently. What Liz Cheney has been the front man or the front person as part of a left-wing and Democratic campaign to do this, which is what? To separate Republican candidates and Republican elected officials from the Republican base. To put it somewhat differently, the Republican base believes 2,000 mules. The Republican base believes, mainstream view, that the 2020 election was stolen. And I go to Republican events all the time, Reagan dinners, Lincoln dinners. I'll give a talk about 2,000 mules. I won't get a single dissenter. Not one guy comes up and goes, well, what about this? Or you failed to notice that, Dinesh, or I think you're exaggerating. I have essentially unanimous consent. And this is where the Republican base is. But Liz Cheney's idea is, what if we use the media, use the Democrats, use social media, and browbeat the Republican candidates to run away from their own base? So what they're trying to do is drive a wedge between the Republican elected officials and would-be elected officials on the one hand, and the Republican base on the other. And this is where Liz Cheney has totally failed. She's not only failed because all these candidates have come out and they're basically, well, call them 2,000 mules candidates, a classic example being Kari Lake in Arizona. But here's where the failure is even more clear. All the mainstream Republicans who were lionized by the media for keeping some distance from Trump are now campaigning for those candidates, campaigning for the very so-called election deniers that are proclaimed to be that way or labeled that way by the media. So Liz Cheney's real campaign is the campaign to establish that the only good Republican is a bad Republican. Or to put it differently, the only good Republican is a rhino. And the Republican base goes, no. And the Republican leadership is now going, no. Let's look at it. Senator Tim Scott, Tom Cotton, Ted Cruz have all been in Ohio campaigning for J.D. Vance. Senator Rick Scott and a whole bunch of senators went to Georgia to help Herschel Walker, even after all these so-called revelations about Walker. In what's probably the most unkindest cut of all for the left and for Liz Cheney, Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin endorsed Kari Lake in her battle to become the next governor of Arizona. He's asked, why would you do that? Why would you support an election denier? He basically goes, hey, listen, we need more Republican governors. The country is governed better when there are more Republicans in office. Tulsi Gabbard, who ran on the Democratic ticket for president, has endorsed Kari Lake. She's endorsed Blake Masters. She's even endorsed Don Bolduc in New Hampshire in his campaign against Maggie Hassan. So this is like slap, slap, slap for Liz Cheney and the big campaign about election denialism. Oh, these candidates are radioactive, they're untouchable, even that some Democrats secretly wish that it'll be Kari Lake. You know, Kari Lake is really showing that your secret wish has come true and she's your worst nightmare. So what's going on is the Republican Party is waking up and beginning to recognize that this is what Republicans stand for. This is what Republicans believe. And all the little machinations of the media and the fact checkers and even resolute Liz Cheney pretending to stand on principle are not really quite working out as they had hoped.